Now, the Champion Chase, I think, over the years has thrown up some absolutely fantastic races and some marvellous horses over the years, and I think this year is no exception. I think it's a mouth-watering clash between Altior and Dessie de Sol. I don't know if the lads will throw in a third or fourth one into it, but this promises to be an absolute cracker. David, I'm going to start with you. Altior lost his unbeaten record. First run of the year in over 2.5 miles, but got back to winning ways last time out, and Dessie de Sol seems to be going from strength to strength. How do you see the Champion Chase panning out?
Yeah, Dessie de Sol, I'm very impressed with him this year. You know, Chacun pour Soi, I didn't get the sparkle that I thought I was going to get in Leopardstown. It just didn't impress me. I was stood in the stands. I don't watch too many races from the stands, thank God, but it just didn't impress me up the straight. If you want to have a safe bet, you probably go with Dessie de Sol, but I retain all my faith in Altior. I think he's probably one of the best horses we've seen in recent years. He definitely is, sorry. And his win the last day from halfway up the run into the line, there's not many horses that do that against Grade 1 horses.
So your choice is?
Stick with Altior.
Stick with Altior. Okay, Brendan, fascinating racing prospect there. Which camp would you be in?
It is a fascinating race, no doubt about it, and it's always a great race to watch. I think that Dessie de Sol is on the up. I wasn't overly impressed with Altior the last day. I thought he had to work very hard. Now, that's him, isn't it? He grinds out results. That's what he does. But I just think Dessie de Sol has beaten one of the great horses of the turf in Undisol twice, and he really beat him very impressively the last day, and I think he's the up-and-coming horse, and he'd be the one for me.
Frank, would it be fair to say that Dessie de Sol is progressive, and you're just wondering if is Altior at his best? I think if you go back to last year's Champion Chase, there was maybe 100 or 200 yards when you thought he was in trouble as well.
Well, like Royale traded 1.6, I think, in the run that day. I think Politlog traded odds on as well. He looked now. The bare form of last year's win would not be enough for this. He would have to run probably, I reckon, 5 or 6 pounds better than that. Like Chacun pour Soi was obviously impressed with Punch when he beat Dessie de Sol, but I do think he'd only had one run before that. It was Deffie's 6th run of the season. He's probably a tiny bit over the top. Deffie's been brilliant this year. Like, even if you look at him, he won every race en route to being very impressive winner of the Triumph Hurdle. The second season hurdling at the Hobbs Yard had a little bit of a virus, didn't they? And nothing was really going well for them. Just put a line through that. And then last year, he obviously beaten in his first chase start and went through the season unbeaten until he went to Punchestown then, getting turned over by Chacun pour Soi. He's great course for him. He's versatile enough now. He's the stamina for 2.5 miles if they go hard. But if they go slow enough, he's a turn of foot. I just think he'll dethrone Altior. Like, Altior hasn't gone anywhere near his best in 18 months more. He needs to get back to his very best, I think, to win here.
How did you read Altior's defeat? His first run back. Well, were you surprised he went 2.5 miles with his first run back?
No, I think they were hoping to make a King George horse out of him, and I don't think they can be. We laid an awful lot of money in him for the King George, funnily enough, so they must have been confident enough that he was going to stay. Mm-hmm. So obviously they were disappointed that he couldn't get the job done at 2.5 miles. Like, I just don't think he's the horse. Like, he's 10 as well now. Like, there's not too many horses can win Grade 1s as 10-year-olds. Like, historically, it's very tough for them. And you've got 2 young horses on the up here. I think it'd take a monumental effort for him to win.
Ronan?
I think there's a kick of the ball or a bad jump between them. I heard Don McLean said last week as well. So it's hard to really come down hard on one, I suppose. Like, there's positives and negatives. Like, Altior is obviously 10. You're wondering if he's at his best, but he's proven on the track. Dessie de Sol, can you question the Undisol form? I don't know, Brendan. I know you're saying he's a great horse, but I think the Mullins camp were slightly disappointed at the pace he went for the Clarence House. They thought he could have went faster and set it up a bit more. And I think Dessie de Sol just quickened on by him. Chacun pour Soi, you know, they obviously think a huge amount of him, but that was a really hard race at Leopardstown, and he's unproven around Cheltenham. So I'm not going to come down hard on anything. I just think it's a brilliant race, probably the race of the week, and it's not a race that you have to have a bet in, I suppose. So yeah, I'm sitting on the fence, Des.
Sit on the fence. Maybe a lot of people should do the same and sit back and enjoy it. Thomas, your choice anyway. Maybe you don't have to have a bet, but try and pick the winner.
Yeah, look, Altior, Nicky Henderson had aspirations, as I said, of going for a King George. So when you're top of your division for so long, and all of a sudden he's thinking of moving away from that. Like, it's so hard to win a race in Cheltenham to start thinking of moving away. Obviously he had doubts already. Dessie has been brilliant, even from his races last year with Lost in Translation, and even the step back down to 2 Mile, he's been brilliant. Chacon Poursois was electric when he bet him in Punchestown. Obviously had the blip at Christmas, got it back. I'm just going to, one horse, if one of the top 3 blip, Dynamite Dollars is at 20-1. If you actually look at Altior's race the last day, Dynamite Dollars led down to the last. He hadn't run for over a year. He's with Paul Nicholls. He could be, if one of the top 3 blip, I could definitely see him getting a place in this race, if not giving them something to think about, because he travelled so well and jumped so well the last day. It taught for a stage. He was actually going to beat Altior. He was coming back from a massive break. So if one of the top 3 blip, I can see Dynamite Dollars running into the first 3.
Ian, which one would you be backing?
I don't know whether I'll be backing any of them, but it'll be a great race to watch. Just looking, maybe if for some reason if Chacon Poursois didn't run, would Min have a chance of just picking up the pieces and being placed? Maybe he'd probably run the Ryanair, but it'd be a great race to watch. I'd like to see Altior winning for when you're over there, because the likes of him winning, that really lights up the place. Horse like him winning, if I was to pick one just for atmosphere wise, it'd be him.
It's just an awful pity that he lost his unbeaten record, you know.
Exactly, yeah.
That happens to them all. Anyway, we've covered the 6 races. I just want to mention now our sponsors for each race. The first race, the Supreme Novices here tonight, was sponsored by the Irish Field. The Arkle Novice Chase was sponsored by the Racing Post. The Champion Hurdle Race was sponsored by Haggard's Garden Centre, and the Ballymore Novice was by Thomas Coyle Racing, the RSA by Hiker Trials, and the Champion Chase, Uncle Tom's Bar, Blackrock, County Louth.